Hey everybody, and welcome to the premiere episode of Hamilton Icons. I'm your host and local real estate agent, Justin Little, and today we are sitting down with Diego Mejia from Feel the Pressure Exterior Washing. Diego, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
It's my pleasure to be here, Justin.
I was excited when I was thinking about people that I wanted to have on this show, and I figured who better than one of my good friends and really just a successful business person in the field that you operate in. And I thought it'd be cool to kind of touch on everything that you're doing.
Oh, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I follow you on Instagram, and I always look at your postings, and they're very interesting. And thank you for giving me the opportunity and give you a little bit of history behind my little enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I wouldn't call it too little because I know your business does very well. So I know you're being very modest with that. But I guess let's start kind of with your background. So pressure washing is the field that you're in.
Correct.
So I guess we can let's start with what you did before you got into this business, and then we'll move into the business if that's good with you. Like, what were you doing before you decided to go down this road?
It's totally different, and a lot of my clients are always a little shocked when they ask me, which was, I work for the city of Hamilton. I was a police officer in the region for 30 years.
Wow. So from that, then I guess you retired, and now I know you retired, but I'm trying to.
I did. I retired 7 years ago, and I consider myself to be young, energetic, healthy. And I couldn't stay home. I tried that for a few months, and boredom got to me very fast. I like to be outdoors. I like people, but I didn't want to do anything that involved any sort of enforcement or uniforms. As prior to policing, I was in the Canadian Armed Forces, so I wanted it to be totally off an institution that required discipline. And I thought, I'll start with my own business and become my own boss.
That's really good because I know you're not a person that can sit still because we used to live across the street from each other. I'd always see you out doing something, right?
Something.
You can never sit still. Why pressure washing?
Well, it all started in just prior to the pandemic. I was looking at businesses to see the pros and the cons. And I wanted something seasonal. I didn't want to work in the wintertime. Because in the wintertime I want to go south and do my hobbies with my family and visit relatives overseas. So I looked at the pros and cons in different things. I look at landscaping, but then again I'm extremely allergic to some of the weeds, so that was a no-no. I didn't want to be indoors in the construction business. I didn't want to be a painter. So one of the things that I came across online was pressure washing. And it appeared to be doable. Needless to say that there was a lot of learning to do and a lot of chemistry to be learned, something that I totally dragged back in my student days. I hated chemistry, and now chemistry is giving me a living. So it started as a seasonal type of a job, still seasonal. We open in March, and we closed just at the end of November.
I think it's good, thinking of your business from that sort of balance, right? Where you wanted to do something, but you still want to be able to travel and see family, which I know you love to do. And then with the chemicals too, right? Like I know that's, it's definitely with pressure washing, a lot of it, because I think people think that when you're doing pressure washing, the machine's doing all the cleaning, when in reality, it's the chemicals that can do an even better job, because I think you use a technique called soft washing, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I know, because I was in that industry briefly, but could you explain just what you do? Because I think it's important for people to know that you're not just showing up with like a high PSI.
Absolutely,
post.
and that's a myth,
Yeah.
Justin. It is a myth, because people believe that if you have a strong power washing machine, you're going to be able to get rid of anything on the surface of a wall, of a house, or on the ground. But in fact, pressure does damage. So you need a lot of pressure, not to remove grime, but to push water. The more water that you can push through, the better of job you're going to do and a little faster. So for an example, we get a lot of calls in the region because on the north and the east side, there always seems to be an accumulation of algae, the green awful stuff that grows on stucco or on siding. And even though concrete does accumulate more, we don't see it because we become accustomed to the change of the color. So if we go in with full pressure, we're going to mark and edge the ground, the surface. So what we do is we go in, as soft washing is, we go in and we wet the surface. And then we spray the solutions. I don't want to call them chemicals because even though they are chemicals, they're solutions, but they are biodegradable. They don't harm our environment. They don't harm the plants or pets. So what we do is we spray it over, we let it dwell for 20 minutes or so, and then we go back and then we rinse. So it's a gentle kind of a rinse. You can put your hand in front of the gun and it's not going to hurt you. And that's the whole idea, that the chemicals do the work. We actually don't even use brushes to brush the surface because it will create shades. As you know, the sun creates on the paint an oxidation, starts decomposing the paint. So if you go on siding and you start brushing, then you remove part of the oxidation and it will not be an even surface. And the next question will be, can we remove oxidation? Absolutely we can. It's a little bit more detail of a job and a little bit more expensive because it requires a lot more manual work. But in retrospect, it's enjoyable. We're outdoors all the time and we enjoy working outside in the summer. And we have met some very, very nice people and they become regular clients of ours.
Yeah, and that's it's good that you focus on like I know you get a lot of repeat business. I know that's because you guys do such a good job and you like being outside and all that. And talking about the chemicals, like you said, not really to call them chemicals, but one thing that I wanted to touch on too is I know that other common misconception when it comes to that pressure washing is decks. People think that with a deck you're going to hit it with a high pressure when really that's damaging the deck, right?
Yes.
Because can you talk about the process for that?
We have what is called a two-step washing. Wood, as we know, it's a life matter. Even though the tree is dead, it is a life matter. So if we go in and we bleach the deck, you're just killing the wood. And by killing the surface, then the sun and the water are going to start rotting it away faster. If you wash and you maintain your deck, you can have and expect probably 30, 40 years of a deck. An example is my own deck. It's 24 years old and I haven't changed one single board, but I do clean it every 3 years and I stain it. So let's start with the washing. It's a two-step. We go in, we wet it, and then we apply a very strong surfactant. It's basically, I will describe it as a stronger soap than those used in a garage, which has an acid. That decomposes all of the grime and the pollution. We live in a very polluted area because of our steel industry in the north end. We let it dwell, and then we rinse it. No power is used with the water, otherwise you will mark it and lift the wood up, the fibers of the wood, and then it will look really awful. So we rinsed it twice. If we have to go over once more, we do that. Doing that, we've noticed in some of the decks, people are not putting any of the carpets on, and then you have a lot of grease. The grease gets soaked into the wood. We can get rid of that as well. Then we rinse. The second time, we apply to what is called the second step, and that's a brightener. That will bring out the original color of the wood. Once it is dried, that deck will be almost white. the wood will be brand new. Some people expect it to look green, but the green is something that is added after the wood is being cut to give it or prolong its life. We suggest that either the homeowner or us or a painter come in and stain the wood. There are many kinds of stain. If you go to a big square building to buy your stain, you're wasting your money. That stain doesn't work. We get our supplies from a fellow in Burlington. He brings professional stain from the U.S. It's just as expensive or economical, whichever way you want to look at it. And there are many colors for different tastes. And we always stain by hand, making sure that every little crack in between is all done. It only requires one hand, and we tell people this is under the sun, under the weather at all times, so you need to either touch it up and clean it every 2 to 3 years, depending on if you're under trees or close to the lake.
Yeah, I could see that because, I mean, they deteriorate so fast. And just find out that your deck is 24.
Absolutely.
I've been on that deck. It doesn't look 24 years old. I can't believe you haven't replaced anything on that deck. It's but that's regular maintenance, right?
Correct.
And you enjoy doing stuff like that, which I feel like it transitions over into this business, right?
Oh, absolutely. I enjoy it a lot.
Even where you, like, I remember seeing the trailer when you first started versus the trailer where it is now, and how much you've added and how much you've changed and that sort of stuff. Like when it first started, like what did you really have when you first started, and then like what's sort of been that journey?
It's been wild. I had a van.
Oh, you had a van?
Yeah, and then I moved into an SUV with one small little power washer, and then just seeing the results I was getting with the minimum equipment, I committed myself and then moved on to buying a full-size pickup truck and had a trailer made with a local fellow down in Stony Creek. And I started with one machine. Now my trailer has 2 very large power washers. At one point, I was using somebody's water in the well. It plugged up my small filter in the machine. So then I had to learn how to do the plumbing with the help of a friend of mine who is in the business and has been in the business for over 15, 18 years in St. Catharines. We put in large filters so that won't happen to me again. And then every year we move on forward and we better the equipment and the system as making it more automated for us. Instead of coming to the trailer and shutting off the soaps, we have developed a system where with the trigger on a remote control that we may have in our pockets or on our neck, we can shut down the soap and then have the water come on. So we save a lot of time from going back and forth, turning machines off and on. So it's been a work in progress. For me, I have learned a lot. And you got to be somewhat mechanically inclined, which I enjoy.
Yeah, you are. You're very mechanically inclined. And you're right, like everything that you see adding every year. And I think part of the fact that you like doing that stuff, it makes it fun to research different ways to do it and how you could fix it. And I mean, like some of it comes out of necessity, like you said, where
Correct.
The filter. Yeah. But then other ones like switching the soap, because I know that can be a pain if you're in the backyard and you're washing a deck in the backyard and now you got to go switch it, walk all the way around to the front, shut it off, and all that. But just developing that kind of system is incredible.
Yeah. When you are up time, because you could be running 200-300 feet of hose to the back of a business or a large home in Ancaster or Upper Stony Creek or in Oakville, so forth. It just takes a lot of time to be walking back and forth.
Yeah, I could see that. And I think it's a good fit for you. I think the pressure wash. So I didn't know you started with the van. So how many years have you been doing it for then now?
Just over 5 now.
Over 5? Yeah. And just to see how far
Close
it's
to 6 years now, I think.
Close to 6. Next season will be your 7th?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, so you do commercial stuff too, right? I think not just residential, but you also do large commercial projects.
Yes.
You have some big clients.
We started it a couple of years ago. We got more involved with the commercial once we began to feel more comfortable and develop more knowledge. Then social media took us over a step forward towards commercial washing. And now we have different contracts with some major institutions, and we thoroughly enjoy. However, it comes into a point where how much work do you want to do? Because a lot of the commercial work has to be done off hours. Obviously, you don't want to be there while their customers are coming in to do their business because you're going to be interrupting the business hours. So we had to adjust our schedules to work with them. So having been a police officer for so many years and working nights does not scare me. And I'm just as good as working at night as I am during the day. There are challenges because at nighttime we needed a lighting. So we had to, again, the necessity, we had to add more lighting to our trailers. And now we have spotlights at the side of the trailers that illuminates the areas that we're working. So everything has been a little slow moving forwards in step by step. But again, I like challenges and I make them fun.
And you're very hands-on in the business, which is good, right?
I'm
And
there
I,
on every day.
yeah, and I think that's a big part of the success because you have that knowledge and the passion for it, right? Do you think you ever see yourself scaling big? Because I know you're retired, so I know you're not probably looking to go crazy, but do you see yourself ever scaling this bigger, or are you kind of like
Well,
where it's at now?
It all depends. You never say never, you never shut a door. So who knows if I get a partner that comes in with a lot of capital and said, let's
go.
let's go, let's go big and let's do it all. Sure, we can do that too. But I have to restrict myself because I still have commitments to a mortgage. I still have commitments to debts with a young daughter in university. So to move on forward, it will require a large amount of money because my next step would have been a big truck.
Yeah.
Is there work? I think there is a lot of work to be had, but I'm a one-man show right now, and I don't want to go out there and hire employees because I cannot sustain employment full-time. But certainly, you can never shut any doors, Justin. As you know, you're in the business,
Yeah.
and you started it by yourself. Now you have a partner. So you need to see what the future will bring, and I will embrace my next challenge.
Yeah, and I think you'll. It's curious. I'm always interested to see where it goes. I'm always interested with the business model and what you've created because it's a hard industry to make a go in, right? But you've managed to do it, and you've managed to do it well. So,
You know,
really
one of the
impressive.
tricks, Justin, is never to lie to a customer. I get asked, can you get this off? And I'll tell them right away. And I want to hear what their expectations are. I will give you an example. There are a lot of spillages of oil on driveways. You have a contractor that comes in and he's a landscaper, or you have a load of concrete coming in for the back of the house, and all of a sudden one of the hydraulic hoses blows up in the truck. Then now you have spillage of oil on your $30,000 concrete driveway. Then they call me and they ask me if I can remove the oil. And I tell them, you can remove the oil by 80 to 85%, and if we're lucky, 90% of the time, we can remove the oil, but never the whole thing. So when the driveway is dried, you don't see the spots. But then when it rains, you can see a shadow of it because, as you know, concrete is a porous.
It's like a sponge, right?
It is
I
a
think
sponge,
people
and
don't
then
understand that. Yeah.
and then when most of these accidents happen is in the summertime when you have construction going around the house, and then with the heat, oil emulsification becomes thinner, and then it goes into the base of the concrete, and then it seeps close to about an inch below the ground. So you're going to see it. We go in, we clean it up as good as we can, not by pressure again, because we're going to damage the surface, by adding certain chemicals on it, certain solutions, and then we can dissolve it and bring it up. I had a call maybe a month ago where there was a spillage of a construction truck on asphalt, and you can never remove oil out of asphalt. If you think about it, what is your asphalt made out of? Oils. So you can't take oil out of asphalt. What we tell them is put some sand on it, absorb as much as you can, wait until next year, and then the whole driveway is going to absorb your oil, and then just seal it up again, and it'll be almost like brand new.
And that'll be it, yeah, because asphalt's a big one. And we see those, like I see oil stains everywhere.
Correct.
That's even a good thing. So, like if somebody's looking to sell a house, just, to clean up the driveway for pictures, that's a good service to have somebody come and do.
Well, Justin, you know better. You know better. Curb appeal is most important in real estate. What is the first thing your clients see when they arrive to a home that you're selling, a prospect home? The first thing is the front of the house. They're going to look at the driveway. They're going to look at the front entrance. They're going to look at the windows. And you may have the most beautiful house, but if a house is not presented well on the outside, you're losing those potential customers.
Very true.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but even when people look online on the listings, the very first picture on the listing is the front of the house.
Correct.
Right.
So having said that, I have several clients. They are all real estate agents as yourself, and they have learned that by having a house washed on the outside, it brings up the value of the money. So let's say the customer or the owner of the house spends $1,000, $1,500 in having a total job done. That $1,500 will translate into thousands of dollars because now they're going to be able to ask for a better price. Same thing with pools. There are some very beautiful pools, but the decks are totally dirty. You know, what's around a deck is water. And then if you don't clean your either deck or concrete or whatever you may have, the pool is not going to show well. So, yeah, we always say curb appeal does matter.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a stat out there that I looked up. And it's something like pressure wash or power washing, just washing the outside of your home and property can actually increase the value by 2 to 3%. I'll have to double check that stat, but I'm pretty sure I read that back when I was a couple years ago doing it. And with the pools, you're so right. Like I have the concrete around my pool, and now so many people have those pools that have the straps that come off of them.
Right.
And then you lift those straps up, and you can see it.
You can see a shadow.
The strap mark.
You can see a shadow. You know, the funny thing is that it didn't used to happen, but we have less snow in southern Ontario, so the surface is more exposed. So with the little bit of snow that we have, and then it melts, it doesn't cover the entire surface. So the surface is exposed throughout the winter, which means you have a lot of particles falling down from pollution, getting attached to a porous surface, and then when you lift up the cover of the pool, then you have a really ugly shadow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, this has been good. I have one last question that I know I didn't run these questions by you, so I might be putting you on the spot here.
No problem.
But take a second to think about it if you have to. If you had to start your business over again from scratch, what advice would you give yourself starting that business?
Well, there's so much, so much advice I could give myself.
There's one thing that you were like, you know what, what was the big defining thing that you think, you know what, we got to do this, or this is so important to do or have?
Well, it's hard. There's so many little things that you can do to start up a business. One of the most important one is have faith in yourself. You really and you really have to like working, because when I was told before the owner works harder, it is true. It is your business. Your face is the business, and it is you that are creating the the whole idea of what the name consists. Justin Little, realtor, Diego with Feel the Pressure exterior washing. So we live in an age where social media is out there, and you can't cheat anybody anymore, because if you do a terrible job and if you are a terrible person to a customer, it is going to be well known because they can give you a terrible review. So far, knock on wood, I have been extremely uh, happy and satisfied with the work that I've done. Um, and I forgot to mention this to you, Justin. When I worked, when I was a young person and I was a police officer, one of my places of employment within the police, I was assigned to the major fraud office. When I was there, I saw a lot of contractors that went in and asked for money, and then when they came back to do the work, they disappear. Shady characters. They're always going to be, find them on Kijiji or Facebook and so forth. And we always told those people that came in to complain to do their homework and never to give any money ahead of time. So I live with that motto. Whenever I get hired, I always send a copy of my estimate, and I will tell them, you don't have to give me any money ahead of time. I don't want to take anybody and kidnap them economically. I understand a family may have an emergency. A stove, a furnace, an air conditioner goes down, and they need the money. So I don't want to hold anybody hostage for my job. If they want to have the job done, I'm very happy to go in and do it. And part of doing business is being polite, sincere, have ambition and faith in yourself. If you follow those things and you tell the person, I can do this for you, you're going to do it. And every time that I go to somebody's house, I treat the house with respect, like if it was my own place. And I always do something a little extra just to make sure that they remember who I am and the business. And you got to leave people with a smile on the face. I always do a walk before and a walk after, and make sure that everything that I promise is done and meet their expectations and a little bit more. So let's go back to your original question, Justin, when you asked me what is the most important thing. And I'm going to reiterate to you is you have to be true to yourself. You have to say, why am I doing this? And true to your clients. You have to have ambition. Educate yourself in whatever you choose to do, in work ethics. When you said, I'm going to work tomorrow, remember, if you get up at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, somebody already is up at 6 o'clock in the morning doing the job that you're going to miss out.
Me. I'm up at 5:30 every morning. I agree with that.
That's right. Yeah. And I say that because there are a lot of people out there that don't even answer the phone when a prospect calls you. You don't answer the phone, then somebody else is going to answer the phone and take that job away from you. Education is also very important. Whatever you do, educate yourself and practice. Before I went out to do anything for anybody else, I experimented everything on my friends' houses, my own house. I tried all the products in my own place. I read a lot about them, and never lie to anybody, and don't take anybody and hijack them economically. And what I mean by that, I never take anybody's deposit. Mm-hmm. I understand there will be difficulties may arise. Your furnace breaks down, your air conditioner breaks down, whatever reason you may need that money. If you can't afford it this year, then we try it again next year. In
Nice.
this business, I hate to take anybody's money. That's not my motto. I don't want to do that, and I only go by my ethics, and that's why people come back every year, and then they're happy with me being in their own place and trusting us.
And it's such a big thing too, because I think one tactic with a lot of tradespeople is to get the deposit and then they have the job locked in, right? So they might over commit to jobs, take the deposits.
That's right.
And then they might not show up on time, or they might keep delaying it, or a bigger job comes in and but now you're financially obligated. You don't want to go out and find somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that kind of makes people know, okay, you're committed to them. If you do it, you're going to be there, but it's not like, okay, give me the money, and then you're just continuously trying to find jobs,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's a really good way to conduct business.
And I like to work with people. I understand that you guys, realtors, you're selling a home and you have a showing or you have an open house. So we always commit ourselves to the needs of our clients. Let's say there is a realtor in Lancaster or in Dundas that needs to have an open house on a weekend. We will try to reschedule things around without causing too much inconvenience for anybody else. Those commercial jobs that we need to do at night, we can reschedule our work to be doing at night. So the next morning, we have a little bit of time to rest and put the trailer back together. As you know, it gets messy with fuels and soaps and restocking and so forth. So organizational skills are also important in keeping your schedule flowing. I always tell my customers that if for some reason the weather does not cooperate with us, I will let them know ahead of time. We are always looking at the weather. If I go to your house and I'm going to be putting $200-300 worth of soaps and surfactants on the surface, and we have a rain storm, it's no sense of me being there and wasting product. So we try to reschedule to the next earliest convenient time for the client and us.
No, that's really good. And that's because I know, especially, you don't just want to do the job just to do it, get paid and go, right?
No.
I think that's been such a difference maker and why you've been able to grow as fast and as consistently as you have, because it is honest work, right? And like you said, your reputation in any business is probably one of the most important points, especially when you're the face of your business, because people want to know that they can trust you. But you can do 100 nice things, and I feel like if you do one bad thing or you go against your word, that's the thing that tends to spread, right?
Absolutely.
Bad news always goes quicker
Yeah.
than good news. So it's definitely a good motto to have.
Absolutely. And I always said, whenever I go to a house, they are my boss that day. I'm working for them. I'm not the boss. I'm
They're the boss when you go home. Your wife's the boss. When are you the boss?
It doesn't seem that I am the boss anywhere, but it is reality. When I go to somebody's house, they are the boss because they are, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to give me a check for my service. So we need to be polite. I see a lot of contractors, either they come into my house or my neighbor's house and I see their behavior and I just shake my head because this is not the way to deal. Things are not cheap anymore. So we need to be polite. And that goes into, again, part of your original question. Knowledge, ambition, ethics, discipline. I guess to me the hardest part around this whole thing was getting myself wrapped around social media.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Sure, because we grew up in another era when social media was not there. We didn't have cell phones when I was a young kid. While my kids have grown up with a computer and cordless phones and so forth. So I had to tap into a lot of resources to learn what Instagram was, who it was geared to, what TikTok was, what Facebook was doing, how to get a website going. And even though you're in the internet, that you have to qualify your web page, even a single picture has to be identified for Google to get analytics and for you to move forward. It's been obviously a challenging move, but I have really enjoyed it, and I have learned a lot. You can't stay dormant. You need to move on and learn something. I try to learn something a day. And this, if I am not learning a language on the side, which I enjoy, I'm learning about the business and chemistry, mechanics, hydraulics, physics, because come my new year, there will be other things that I have learned, and then I can put in place and make my job easier and make it better.
Mm-hmm. And that's important, the knowledge in that. And like you said, doing something every day, even if you do it for 10 or 20 minutes a day, right? Everybody thinks that when you got to go, like there's a lot of stuff around that hustle culture where you got to do 8 hour, 10 hour, whatever days of research and all this. But like, I believe if you just wake up and you do something that day towards your business or towards your goal, eventually you have to get there, right?
Correct.
And that's sort of how your business grew over the years. It's just slowly adding more and more.
Letting your friends know to become public. My contacts on Facebook, all my friends, I've told them what I am doing now. And like I said, at the very beginning, I worked almost an entire summer for free because I wanted it to go out and try all these things that I was learning. And of course, my close friends knew that I was just beginning. If I was going to make a mistake, I wanted it to do it in my house, not in somebody else's property. So when I look in retrospect to half a decade ago, it's been a learning curve, and it's been enjoyable. Needless to say, it's been challenging, but it's been fun.
Well, that's great. Well, this has been enjoyable too.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate being here.
Well, thanks so much for coming. I'm glad that I had you on as the first one. This episode is going to live for when we get together at the next committee meeting. We can watch it with the neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe we can bring Rich Royce back.
Oh, that's it. One day. That's a different episode.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Diego.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, again, for tuning into this podcast. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.